2015, an elite DFS Army Commando unit formed to bring high-level DFS strategy to the masses. Today, hated by DFS sharks and lineup sellers alike, they continue their quest to turn Joe into DFS pros.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is your DFS Army Daily Dispatch brought to you by DFSArmy.com. And I am your host today, BoomersDaddy. Joining me is Mr. Bear. We're not going to go into any sort of pleasantries for the introductions. We're going to get right to the how you doings.
Hey, what's happening?
Oh, man, it's a Friday, and I think the NBA got the notice that it was a Friday because it is 12:45 Central Time, 10:45 Pacific, and it's been a morning already.
Yeah, it has. Lot's been thrown at us already, and a lot has been kind of still put into question, and we'll talk about all of a sudden Draymond Green popping up, and so
going away and then popping back in. And then,
yeah, exactly.
It's been one of those days so far, but there's. I want to go ahead and throw out a warm and heartfelt thank you, Bear. I don't know your personal history or anything, but I come from a military background. Both my parents were in the military, my uncles, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, and it goes on generations. And today is not lost, and it is always a day that is near and dear to my family. We had some family friends of my great-grandfather's that passed away in Pearl Harbor. And just wanted to throw a big shout out to all the military folks for everything that they do on a day in and day out basis, because it's not easy, especially this time of year, if you're away from your family, and it's not easy for the families either. So thank you from myself and from the rest of us. Today is not easy for a lot of people around the country. And it's a day that we shall obviously never forget either. So,
amen.
All righty, let's move on to. We've got a lot. We were talking a little bit before the show, and I put out my initial Boomers Ballers. And what I do basically when I do this is I go through my model, the raw model, before you guys see the end result projections, then DS, and I look for things that stand out, points of emphasis, and stuff that I look for that I did before I basically gave everybody my projections in the DS. And I go through and I start making a list. Okay, everybody that interests me, even if it's just a slight interest, for me to come back and research later, everybody that interests me, I basically write down. And I wrote down everything, and I made fun of myself just going in. I was like, I got 15 point guards. And we were talking, and I was like, dude, it's a 10-game slate, yes, but I've never had so many people that I've got to do research on just to make sure to narrow it down. I don't like my player pools being above 50, even on a 10-game slate. This is the largest initial player pool I've had all season.
There's a lot to like, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot to like, a lot to look at, a lot to break down, a lot of injuries, a lot of value. I mean, this is going to be one of those slates where you are going to have to take some pretty serious stands. Particularly if you're playing in tournaments, you got no choice. I think it's a little bit easier for cash, frankly, and we'll go into those. But as far as where to go, and as far as what to make your player pool look like, and all those exposures, as our members know, we'll have that our picks there in our chat forum, but there's going to be some stands you're going to have to make. I mean, there's not going to be much of a choice.
Yeah, I've pretty much almost got my cash game lineup built for the day, and unless some stuff happens, I really don't see me coming off of it too much. But let's go ahead and start it off here. Point guards, guys. If this is going to be one of those nights, if it's kind of obvious, we're not going to talk a lot about them. I'm not going to talk about how Russell Westbrook is a good play against the Chicago Bulls. I could talk about Russ all day, every day, but I'm not going to do that today. So we're going to kind of move right along here. Outside of Russ, obviously, the top guy that I kind of plugged into my cash game after after Joel Embiid was ruled out was Ben Simmons. He was the first inclination I had. Obviously, we'll talk a lot about his teammates here as well, but Ben Simmons without Embiid is the usage goes up. It's just amazing, and he's too cheap in my opinion for you to kind of worry about if he does well with Embiid or not.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we've seen what he's done without Embiid before. We've seen, he's like a 11K player at that point, right? So, I mean, it's going to be hard for us to pass him up, particularly in cash games. I think he's very, very tournament viable as well. The Pistons are, in their backcourt have not been, or front court, I should say, are not very solid defensively. Excuse me. I know Reggie Jackson has been somewhat of a good defender for his early part of his career, but if you look at them as a team, I think it's kind of a soft spot, and that's where you want to attack.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that 100%. It's just one of those things. Yeah, he doesn't have a jumper, and yes, I know all the negatives about it, but after about the first 10, 15 games of last year without Embiid, and, we would just automatically kind of fade Simmons and play, guys like Rashawn Holmes and Amir Johnson and stuff like that, and Dario Saric, he kind of started to figure it out a little bit.
Yeah.
And we've seen that progression kind of continue to go. We saw it throughout the course of last season. He was an auto fade without Embiid the beginning of the season, and then by Christmas he became a plug and play. I might have the time frame a little bit off, but he's learned how to play without Embiid on the court, and he's obviously their leader. He's the top play, and now the fact that he has Jimmy Butler for to continue to keep some of that spacing open, and he doesn't have to worry about the defense collapsing on him completely. He's still got JJ Redick on the outside to be able to knock down some threes and stuff as well. He's got the ability to kind of, I don't want to say break the slate, but just be wary if you plan on fading him in any format tonight, what could happen. He's got to be a calculated fade. He's not a fade like, oh, I'm just going to fade him because he's chalk. Like, that's not the issue that you want to do tonight with Ben Simmons. So
I don't hate any of that stuff. I mean, it's going to boil down to will Jimmy Butler take away from some of his ceiling? I think it's something that's legitimate. It's possible because remember prior to Butler coming there, we only saw Simmons without Embiid. Before Butler got there, we haven't seen this yet. So this is kind of uncharted territory for us here. I don't, we're gonna have to wait and see. Is what I'm getting at. So, which I'm happy to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's enough, production to go around for them. They might cut into it a little bit, but what are we talking about? Like a ceiling cut from 65 to 60?
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, if you're telling me that the ceiling's cut from like 65 down to 55, then we might have, and I know that's only 5 points, but then we might have a, more of a bigger question in order to fade.
Well, here's the thing, okay? The thing is that he doesn't need most of his fantasy production is not actual like points related.
Right.
So so when I said what I said, it was a little more specific to his upside hits the, how do I put this? The shared playmaking that Butler does.
Gotcha.
See what I'm saying? So that takes away from a few more assists, and Butler can get his rebounds and that kind of stuff. That's where I was headed.
Yep, I would agree with you there. So, all right, let's talk about the next guy here. Should we talk about how bad the Warriors are against the Bucks?
Yeah, we probably should.
Okay, so Steph Curry is actually he was on my initial list, and I've done a little bit of research, but I haven't done it specifically player to player yet. But Steph Curry is not good against the Bucks. Let's just we should just throw that out there, okay?
That's funny.
His high point in the last 3 seasons is a 44.5 DK points. If I go back to 5 seasons, his high is a 55, and that was in December of 2015. And if you remember, I think that was the game in Milwaukee where they had won like 31 or 32 in a row, and they got absolutely blasted. Like, even with Curry kind of going off. I'm trying to look for that game real quick. He played 39 minutes, which seems like his best games came before the Bucks became the Bucks that they are now.
Right.
Like, other than that, he's horrible against them. Like, the Warriors really do struggle with the length of the Bucks, and we were talking about this with one of our buddies, Luce, and it's bad, man. It's been really bad.
Hard to argue that. I mean, it's hard to argue that. It really is. I mean, it's true. I mean, it's been bad, and I think now you got to look at, there's still no Draymond, and it's like you said, they're just here's the thing about the Bucks. The thing about the Bucks is why are they so difficult a matchup is because they're so damn lengthy at every single position. Every single one. They've just got these long arms and fantastic defenders. Now, what do they do best in the league? They run people off the three-point line.
Yeah.
How does Golden State win their ball games? They make three-pointers. So the fact that they haven't been good historically against them isn't such a huge surprise. I just broke it down for you in terms of why, so we know why.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I'm sitting here and I'm looking at 3-point percentage, and they are the best in the league.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, they're not. The Pelicans are the best in the league. No, I'm looking at it wrong. This isn't defense. Anyways, they're top 5, and we know they are. I completely screwed all of that up. So I was looking at it and trying to find it, and it didn't pop right on where I was looking at it. So anyways, but it's what they do. They've been doing that for a while.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Opponent 3-point shooting percentage. They are they're actually 16th in the league, allowing a 35.2%, which isn't good. It's still not good. But, I mean, when you compare it to Atlanta, who's allowing 38.1, it's been really, really weird. because in the last 3, they've taken a hit. And a lot of that had to do with they've been on the road. Now, at home, they're allowing just under 31% from beyond the arc, which is all that really matters to me. Like, they're number 2, right behind Denver and tied with Oklahoma City for the worst opponent three-point shooting percentage in the NBA right now when they're at home.
Yeah.
So that's a huge thing. That's a really big thing because, I mean, yeah, Steph can create his own shots. I'm not saying that he can't. It's just, for me, I think I might just, if I'm going to go to a Warrior, it's going to be Klay Thompson, who doesn't do great either, but at least he's cheaper and the profit potential is higher up.
Sure.
He does have a 42 and a 38. Now, that 42 came the same game where Steph went 55. But earlier this season, in November, a month ago, really, in Golden State, he had a 38. So, I don't know. Golden State, I might be talking myself on a full Golden State fade, which it doesn't really happen that often. Well,
Yeah,
not full, but the Splash Brother fade.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really good options at, all the guard spots today. So I understand what you're saying. It's definitely, it definitely makes sense. But at the same time, I don't know if I can just full fade it like that.
I might.
So.
I just looked up Kevin Durant, too.
Yeah, now Durant is a different story, right? I mean, I thought we were on the guards, but Durant is another story.
Well, we were just talking about it all together, and it kind of
because Durant has one of the most difficult matchups on the planet. Not that doesn't mean that it stopped him before. I mean, he just put up a shitload of points on Kawhi, but Giannis is taller than Kawhi. He's not the defender Kawhi is, which says a lot because Giannis is a pretty damn good defender. But you've basically got a taller version. I mean, it's not a good spot for him.
Yeah. Oh. Okay, so let's talk about Mike Conley.
Sure.
I asked you before the pod, I was like, dude, am I crazy for loving Mike Conley tonight? Like, Mike Conley was my cash game point guard until the Embiid news happened. Mm-hmm. And, like, now I think a very, very, I don't think it's going to be chalky at all, but I think a very tournament-worthy type of roster construction is one that we talk about a lot, is paying up for both point guards. And I'm finding it very hard. I mean, there's a ton of value at the position, but I'm finding it very hard not to love a Ben Simmons, Mike Conley type of point guard combo.
I don't hate it at all. I mean, I like it a lot. I think your upside between those two guys are fantastic. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, if I were to just sort by ADVP here, Mike Conley, the Mike Conley-Shelvin Matt combo have the best point guard matchup on the board. It's not hard to figure out why, and I like both of them. Like, I really, really do like Shelvin Mack tonight too, just in case this game gets out of hand, because Shelvin Mack's going to see minutes anyways. He's 3,700 on FanDuel. He'll qualify for a drop score. That's exactly what I want. And Draymond Green officially ruled out, maybe, unless number fire is just behind, which could be the case too. But Mac's still going to put up minutes, and if he doesn't do well, oh well, so what? It's going to drop off. Him and another guy are going to compete for it, but. You know what? I mean, if I gave you the option here, are you going Shelvin Mack or DeAnthony Melton?
That's actually no. It is. It's difficult for me, honestly. It is. It is because I've been on the Melton train since the day everyone's like, "How did that guy go off?" I was like, "I've got 25% Melton." Remember?
Yeah, no, we were both on Melton that day.
So I mean,
just
it's
completely forgot that he got recalled from the G League 2 games ago.
yeah.
That one I missed. But okay, so let me throw Shelvin Mack or Eli Okabo.
Probably Mac.
Okay, now here's another guy that we're going to talk about because we're going to talk about the Cleveland guards here in just a second.
Yep.
Shelvin Mack or George Hill?
Hill.
Slated, but
George
it's
Hill.
close.
Not for me. It's not. I'm looking at I'm looking at the two matchups, right? I'm looking at the two. Let's see here. I'm looking at the two projections, not just the points, but in terms of how long we expect them each to play, and considering they're both the same price. And I don't know that this game gets out of hand, to be honest. I don't see that it will. I mean, both teams are really good.
New Orleans has fallen off, and I think a lot of that has to do with kind of being, in one of their grind part of the schedules.
So you think it's going to be Memphis possibly going nuts here?
Well, I think Memphis is going to go nuts anyways. I'm just saying, I don't think that, if you tell me Memphis and New Orleans are about the same caliber team, I would have to say that's, at this point in the season, no.
I agree.
I think that Memphis is a far better team, even though New Orleans has the far better talent.
Individual, right. But, well, maybe even team-wise, to be honest.
I mean, overall team-wise, because who are you really afraid of on the Grizzlies? It's Conley, it's Gasol, and Jaren
defensively,
Jackson.
You mean? Yeah.
No, just overall. It's Jaren Jackson Jr. And after that, I mean, they're not rolling out a Julius Randle off the bench for 25 minutes who can take over a ball game.
Sure.
They have a top 5 perennial MVP candidate in Anthony Davis. You've got Drew Holiday, who can be one of the best two-way guards in the NBA if he puts his mind to it.
Absolutely.
Right now, he's having to focus. I think everybody underestimates what the loss of Elfrid Payton has done to the Pelicans.
Right.
And they're in a grueling part of the schedule right now.
Yeah, and it was initially the loss of Rondo for them, and then when they picked up Elf, I'm like, okay, and then he was out. I'm like, they're in trouble. They're in trouble. I mean, you can't expect to make the playoffs, with Tim Frazier. I mean, you can't. No offense, but it's the truth. So let's get back on track here. So point guards. For me, I also, when it comes to George Hill, I don't want to, downplay the going back against Sacramento narrative either.
Oh yeah, there's a couple revenge. There's some revenge in this game.
So I mean that's part of it for me as well, and it's what it is.
I'm not saying it's hands down Shelvin Mack. I'm just saying you have to. It's a decision that you're going to have to make between those two today, because those are two of the better values under 4K at the point guard position, and they're both viable in my opinion, especially on a 10-game slate.
Sure.
All right, let's talk about De'Aaron Fox here. Going up against Cleveland, it's the third best matchup on the board today. He has shown that he is, we've talked about this a number of times, he is by far, in my opinion, the most improved guard in the NBA this year.
Yeah, he's got to be, man. Absolutely, and he deserved that title.
I love him tonight. His price is $7,700. I don't think anybody's going to touch him, even going against Cleveland.
You're probably right. You're probably right.
When you've got Lonzo Ball with no Brandon Ingram, that's $1,000 cheaper. That's going to play about the same minutes. If we find out that Ball is going to be chalk, Like if the chalky point guard combo is going to be a Simmons Ball combo, which it very well could be, or another guy that we'll talk about here in just a second, then I think De'Aaron Fox is a nice pay up pivot off of Ball, because there's a very good chance, and there's a lot of guys in between there that could be it too, but there's a very good chance that De'Aaron Fox outscores Lonzo Ball by 10 tonight.
It could be. Yeah, that's very possible.
So I love it. And getting Marvin Bagley back, I think actually probably could help him out a little bit. It might not show in the numbers, like the usage might go down, but the overall spacing on the floor and not having Kosta Koufos out there for 20 minutes, log jamming the paint is going to help him. Okay, so let's talk about Reggie Jackson, then we'll talk about this Cleveland guard situation.
Sure.
Reggie Jackson. I'm not quite 100% sold on Reggie yet, and here's the reason why. I wanted to ask you about what's going to happen, because the Pistons have some injury issues in their backcourt now. We just found out this morning that Ish Smith is going to miss a couple weeks. He's got a tear in his adductor, or his lat, or whatever it is. But Reggie Bullock is also a game time decision, probably going to miss again.
Yeah.
Langston Galloway got the start last game.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm having a very, very hard time kind of outside of Reggie. Jose Calderon is probably going to get some of the backup point guard minutes, but he's not going to get more than about 15. He's not viable, in my opinion. He's to give Reggie Jackson a spell. But I want to know who is going to eat up some of that backup point guard usage.
It's going to be one or two people.
It's going to be Galloway or Johnson, right?
Yep. That's pretty much it.
So I'm not crazy for liking both of them.
Nope. Because I do too.
Now I just have to figure out which one.
Well, here's the thing. Stanley is more of an offensive weapon. They both shoot, but Stanley has had the games this year. Stanley has come in and put up 35. He's done that, and he can do it again. Galloway did that last year. I haven't seen that from him yet this year. I think I may have seen a game or two, but we're talking about over 25 game span. There's not much there. Now, is that because of there were no injuries? No, because look at the minutes. He's still been playing.
Yeah, he's still been playing. It's just
not very well.
Yeah, the overall usage of it is very, very back and forth. So, I don't know. Stanley Johnson, for me, and we'll talk a little bit more about him, he's a very, very interesting candidate today on both sides because of his price. So, all right, let's talk about the guards for the Cleveland Cavaliers going up against the Sacramento Kings team. As we've seen Fanduel do a couple times with a couple different situations, when George Hill came back, Colin Sexton's price immediately dropped. And I'm not talking like a couple hundred. I'm talking he went, bam, down.
Yeah.
He is 4,900. He is still going to play over 50 minutes. My God. 4,900, 50 minutes. Lock and load. There's your lock.
Yep.
He's still going to play over 30 minutes. And guess what? George Hill is viable too. He's still going to play 25 because, as we've talked about it the last 3 times that the Cavs are on the slate, they're going to play both at the same time on the court.
Yeah. They are.
So,
they both start together. They put Hill at the 1 and Sexton at the 2.
Yeah. And I love both of them today. I wish that they would switch Colin Sexton over to a shooting guard on FanDuel, because as we get cheat codes with shooting guards by position eligibility going into the point guard position and being that main ball handler, it's not as fun when a quote unquote point guard ends up playing more of the 2. Even though he does handle the ball, it's still very, very. It doesn't sit well in the Boomer Daddy stomach.
Understood.
So, if you had to choose between one, which one are you playing?
George Hill.
Is that just because of price?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting a, $1,000 discount. For a guy that I think we've been waiting for him to have his big game. I mean, it's coming. I know it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to be, in a tournament with him when he does.
Yeah, Goran Dragic. Jeez. I'm still not there, but I think it's good enough. Then just sit out!
Yeah. If the team heard him say that, they might sit him out.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, let's move on to the shooting guards here. Top player of the day. We both know who it is. Go ahead.
Are we in shooting guards?
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be DeMar. I mean, it's going to have to be. I mean, we saw what he just did in a loss to the Lakers on the road. Now he gets the Lakers at home with that loss on their mind, and they've got to start winning ball games. And I mean, this is a DeMar game.
Yeah, and they're a much better team at home. Make no mistake about it.
Significantly better. This game is not going to be. I mean, they're favored, so that kind of gives you some perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
I love DeRozan today. I think I'm going to probably be playing him more in tournaments than in cash. He's not in my cash game lineup as of right now. But you just can't not talk about him.
That's right.
We called it on Wednesday night. Said play DeMar DeRozan. Just play him. Just don't worry about it. Just play him. And if you paired him and LeBron James up, like we talked about on the pod, then you did very, very well with that late night hammer.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, let's talk about Jimmy Butler. We know the unknown situation. We don't need to rehash it. 8,100 just still feels way too cheap on FanDuel, and I think he's 70. Let me find him here. He's 74 on DraftKings.
So here's the thing, right? Jimmy G buckets. The G stands for gets. The guy gets buckets. So so number one, he's way too cheap. Number two, without Embiid, I think this is going to be this is going to be a pretty close game. I think this might actually be a wire-to-wire game. Third thing is, the defense of the Pistons here, which we already talked about, is just it's really the same exact thing with Ben Simmons, and Butler can do it with his scoring, whereas Simmons doesn't need to. The next thing, so what am I on the fourth thing now? The fourth thing is there's a lot about this play that I want to make sure we get out and kind of walk through the thought process. The fourth thing is there's going to be some really, really, really chalky plays here, particularly from the Lakers, with Ingram being out, that are pretty much min price. There's two guys that are min price that I don't think you're going to see many roster constructions of like a DeMar and a Butler, right? Or DeMar and some of these other guys we'll talk about here shortly. I don't think you're going to see that.
No, I would agree with you. I think that the default roster construction at both the guard positions today is going to be pay up, pay low.
Pay up, pay low. Exactly. And so, having said that, I think it's something that for tournaments you might want to be a little contrarian and pay up for both. I mean, for me, most of the time where I have done really well in tournaments was when I pay up for 2 point guards and 2 shooting guards. Because I like to, those are where the ceiling games, there in the center, are where the ceiling games they're high. I mean, when you've got the cheat codes, DeMar's a cheat code. Let's just call it what it is. DeRozan handles the ball. It's DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge who are involved in every single offensive play that they have. So you got to target that, right? I mean, you can't stay away from that. And you might see the same thing with Butler. I mean, and a Butler will probably be, they've got McConnell there, but Butler will probably be like their Ben Simmons when Simmons sits. And so there's another cheat code. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot to like about both of those plays there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of hard to not, pay up at all four guard spots, but it's not going to leave you.
I know.
The roster construction is going to be key and vital today. It's, what do you want to try to accomplish? Are you want to get, you can still play chalky plays, but then you have to get creative on how you work them into your roster, and it's going to be very, very tricky, especially if more news ends up coming out.
Right.
So, all right, Klay Thompson, we kind of touched on him a little bit. He's probably the only Warrior wing player that I have any interest in. And it's not a lot, honestly, considering all the other options at the position.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I don't, with some of these names we're talking about, I don't know how much Klay you're going to see in terms of ownership. So I've got already a decent amount of Klay shares, so I'm good with that. There is another play here that I like a lot, and that is Bogdanovich versus Cleveland. He's probably going to face a lot of Sexton, or if not Sexton, Seti and or Rodney Hood, none of which concern me in the slightest.
Clarkson.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have any really perimeter defenders there that I'm worried about at all. I mean, in fact, I kind of want to attack as much as I can. And Cleveland hasn't. I mean, every team gets blown out, but they're not. They haven't been getting blown out the gym every game like they were expected to.
Right.
So
not Phoenix.
Right. Exactly. So you can still load up on some Kings and confidently expect full quarters.
Yeah. I really do like those two Kings shooting guards. Both Buddy and Bogdanovich are in play firmly for me tonight as well. All right.
I've been playing all year whoever's cheaper of the two. That's what I've been doing.
Yeah, and right now on FanDuel it's Buddy Hield. Let me look on DK and see where they are. Buddy, and on DraftKings it's Bogdanovich. So
yeah, well,
there you go. That's where you can kind of get your exposure.
Yeah.
I think they're both good plays. It's just what do you want to do? All right, Chris Middleton against the Golden State Warriors. Kind of screwed a lot of us the other night.
Yeah.
Did not hear anything about him being away from the team all day long. We have a Bucks fan in-house. He didn't hear anything about it. I played DeRozan, LeBron, and Middleton all in the same lineup, and that $7,400 zero hurts.
Oh yeah. And what's funny was that night my highest scoring lineup was with him, his zero. It just goes to show what I was supposed to be doing there.
Yeah, it's
he was 1% owned.
He's looking like he's going to play today, so
hope so.
And he's had some pretty decent games. He's had some clunkers, but he's had some pretty decent games. He had a 35 or 37 earlier this season in Golden State. So,
yeah, I mean, look, one more thing. So actually, a few more things about Middleton and the game as a whole. First of all, guys, it's the hammer game. We actually get an early hammer game. Second, my wife will be very thankful.
No kidding, right?
Secondly, this game is a 239.5 total. Like, that is way more than anything else I see here. And the Bucks are favored by 1. And if the Bucks are going to beat the Warriors, it can't just be all Giannis. Like, it's going to have to be Bledsoe and Middleton and Brogdon and Lopez. And, I mean, you're going to have to get more offense if you're going to score your share of, 120 points. or more, depending on who wins the game. So, I think I'm not going to play all those guys that I mentioned in one game stack. I think that might be a little bit too much. But I don't mind pairing Bledsoe and Bledsoe and Middleton. I don't mind pairing Middleton and Giannis. I don't mind pairing, any combination of those three guys, or even throw in some Brogdon if you'd like, because he's actually been priced up a little bit, so I'm not too fond of it. But
yeah, I'm not either.
But there's a lot to like about this game, and I think if you're going, for me, the lineups where I played Middleton, I threw in Clay in there too.
Yeah, I like that ping pong going against each other, and that's probably what's going to be my hammer tonight is that ping pong. So
yeah,
at least in tournaments as of right now.
But it's hard not to play DeRozan.
Oh, it is. It's hard. I mean, it's hard not to play DeRozan, Butler, and then some other guys. All right, so I want to talk about one guy here, then we'll talk about your guys. Malik Beasley. I have loved what this kid has done over the last week or so. He has, and I know it hasn't shown like in production a lot, but man, outside of that Portland game, he is absolutely just running around like a chicken with his head cut off and is playing like he's playing with the fire that who is it? I'm trying to think of a guy that like just is all over the place.
Montrezl Harrell?
There we go. He's playing like a small body Montrezl Harrell.
Yeah. Here's the thing about Malik. I'm with you. I love what he brings to them. He's shown a lot. He's shown his growth. He's shown all the hard work he's been putting in. Because prior to Harris, what's the other guard's name that went out? Jeez.
Guard, you said?
Yeah, they're small. No, they're small forward who went out, who got injured. The guy who scores 1 million points. I can't remember his name.
Will Barton.
Thank you. Will Barton. Before those guys were out, he wasn't seeing the court. And I watched their sessions and I watched their interviews and I followed their beat writers who were at their practice, and they have been raving about this guy. And I'm like, he's gonna get his chance. It's gonna happen, and it has. And here's the thing. I don't know that it will show up on the DFS side, though. That's my only concern. Like, as far as, do I want him on my team if I'm a coach or a general manager? Yes. Do I want him to roster him even though he's basically minimum price? I don't know if that equates to production. But if ever a matchup...
That's what I'm saying.
This is a hell of a matchup, and you're going to see all the chalk head over to Josh Hart's way down here at the bottom.
Yeah, that's kind of why, if he's going to compete with, like, a Shelvin Mack for my drop score on Fanduel, he's not in play for me on DraftKings.
Yeah.
But he does have the ability to go up and put up 15, 5, and 5.
Sure.
And get you 25 to 35 or 25 to 30, FanDuel points. And if he's going to compete with Shelvin Mack as my drop scorer, then I think he's in play, because if he does end up hitting the nuts, then he's going to be lesser owned. And if Josh Hart bombs or gets 4,005 minutes again, then, I'm ahead of the field.
Yeah.
That's my only interest in Malik Beasley, is from a strict FanDuel type drop score candidate type of play.
Makes sense.
All right, let's talk about the Lakers and this little conundrum that we got going on here. Josh Hart, KCP. A lot of people are going to flock to KCP because of the fact that he was the one that actually had the production when Brandon Ingram went out. But what they're not realizing is the fact that, like I just stated, Josh Hart basically committed 4 fouls in 5 minutes, which I've never seen before.
I mean, and we were all kind of chatting while we were watching the game. One of them, he literally didn't touch anyone. Like
Yeah,
he wasn't.
there were a couple BS calls.
Like he wasn't. It wasn't even close. I'm watching the replay. I'm like, what? And not even as a fan. Like I had him on my team too. Like I'm like, come on. Anyway, no here nor there. Yeah, that's all it was. He got into like really bad foul trouble really quick, and he didn't play. Now I can tell you, Luke Walton is all in on Josh Hart. Like he loves Hart, and you know the reason why lately he hasn't been playing so much, which we expected him to when Rondo went out, was he's been injured. He had was it a foot injury or something, or may have been a hamstring. I don't remember what the injury was. Nothing serious, but he needed a couple weeks to let it go, to let it get back to normal. And then when he was cleared to practice and to play, they still didn't want to rush him into big minutes. He's over that. He's healthy. We saw it the other night. He's healthy. So my play here is Hart. I mean, that's where I'm going.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. I was watching the game and like it was almost like, all right, Rook, it's your turn to get picked on by the refs type of thing. Yeah, I know he's not a rookie, but young pup, whatever you want to call him. It was just I was flabbergasted by the amount of non-physical contact that he had made and was getting called for on fouls. Like it was really, really bad. And it was in succession too. Like it was just crazy. So yeah, Josh Hart is probably going to be my play. I think he's a cash game staple for me. He's 3,600. I compare him with basically whoever I want. Right now, my cash game is pretty much Jimmy Butler, Josh Hart. I could go up to other guys if I wanted to. I've still got some wiggle room on some other spots, but this seems like a pretty solid combo for me tonight because he can put up 30, 35.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's move on to the small forward position. Real quick, are you in or out on Giannis?
I'm in.
I'm in on GPPs and GPPs only. He's not coming anywhere close to my cash games. The last 4 years, he hasn't broke 50 against the Bucks or the Warriors. It seems like him and Kevin Durant kind of cancel each other out as far as the upside is concerned. Now, does that mean that he can't, have a Giannis type of game and just go bananas? No, it doesn't. He can.
I'm not
He's always got the upside.
Yeah.
And that's why you're paying for him. So.
Yeah.
You going back to LeBron James tonight?
In some builds. I mean, they don't have anyone to stop him. I mean, there's not one guy. I mean, they put. Oh, am I really going to do this for Luz right now? Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this for him. They have a guy named Gunnar Cunner over there, who Dante Cunningham, for those of you that are normal, that is going to, be on him. And I'm sorry, but he can't guard him either. So we saw what he did to him the other night, right at home. I'll have some builds where, I mean, you're going to have a lot. So if anyone pays up over there at the small forward, it's going to be there, right? You're going to have a lot of people that are looking for Giannis and Durant and that matchup and that total and that kind of thing. I think LeBron's an elite pivot.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I'm not quite sold that he'll do it 2 games back to back against the same team. Not that it's going to be anything that San Antonio is going to do to prevent it, but it's, does he take, it's always a question with LeBron sometimes. Does he take this now in a hostile environment?
Well, wait a minute.
What he did.
It can't be always and sometimes. So which one is it?
What?
You said it's a problem with him always sometimes.
Oh, the problem with him sometimes is that does he take this as a teaching moment after what he did at home for some of these other guys and say, hey, you know what, I'm not going to save you this time, go out and do it. And he just becomes the facilitator. It depends. For me, LeBron is going to be an ownership-based play for me. If he ends up becoming chalky for whatever reason throughout the day, then I'm probably not going to play him. But if he's going to be one of those elite options that nobody's going to play and everybody's going to forget about after what he did, then I'm probably going to have some exposure as well.
I just don't see how he's owned hardly at all. I don't.
Well, I mean, if Lonzo Ball or if somebody gets ruled out, or we don't know quite how these things always come to fruition. We just know that sometimes they do. I'm just saying, like, it's gonna take something happening for me to really start to fall in love with LeBron tonight, and that's just because I think that this position is loaded.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
So, all right, I'm probably out on Kevin Durant. We talked about why. Kind of with me on that one?
No.
Oh, come on. Why are we so far off today?
No. I can't be. I mean, I can't be because, I mean, yes, he's got Giannis on him. I get all that, but here's the thing about this game. Like I talked about a little bit earlier, like, he's got Durant lit up Kawhi Leonard. I mean, this man, he's not human this year. Like, Durant has been the epitome of matchup proof. Like, who thought he was going to put up like 50 something versus Kawhi? Nobody. I mean, and on top of that, I've been hearing them talking about this game a lot the last few days. Like, this game means a lot to them. And in those kinds of games, like, they want it so bad, Draymond wants to play. Like, he's like, we got to beat these guys because they embarrassed them last game. And I see Durant and I see Clay and I see Steph coming out and playing as hard and as well as they may have played all season. And so I have a few lineup constructions here where I'm stacking this game because I love it. And Giannis isn't going to back down. Middleton isn't going to back down. And Brogdon isn't going to back down. And Bledsoe isn't going to back down. Nobody is. These are two of the most competitive teams in the league in terms of we're here. You're not going to beat us. And for me, that means that the best players are going to be producing. And Kevin Durant, what I've seen him this year, listen, we've seen him be a perennial superstar for many years. But this year, above all years, he's 100% matchup proof. I don't think anyone in this league can guard him today. Not one player can guard him. So I'm not scared.
Very, very convincing. Very convincing. I don't.
What is it? Come out with it.
I don't think he hits 60.
Okay, it could be.
And at 10-6,
Remember, they're at home. Remember that. They're at home.
Milwaukee is.
Yeah. Oh, you said Durant's not going to hit 60. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like, can he? Yeah, but remember, nobody thought he was going to light up, Kawhi, but he did it without Steph. Like,
Yep.
he was the offense. Now he
Yep.
doesn't have to be.
Yep. I understand.
Yeah, I understand his prices reflected that. I also look at the matchups. between him and Giannis. And Giannis is kind of, it's a different type. He's a different type of defender. Like, there aren't very many guys in the NBA that can compete with Durant's length. Giannis is one of them. And that scares me if I'm rostering Kevin Durant tonight. So, I don't know. We've still got all day. I'm more towards the no than the yes. But now you've got me questioning it even more.
I mean, yeah. I don't. It's just something I like, and I don't know how else to explain it. It's something I like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to question what you like and what you don't like, because we both have those times where we can't really explain it, yet it works.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's get going here, moving on, because a couple things we got to unpack here. Paul George, he went off. I think he's still too cheap. That's probably all I'm going to say about that. Don't expect another 21-point fourth quarter, but he's an integral part of this offense, and as we've seen, we compare both Russ and George together in the same lineup, and they're going to be on the court at the same time. They're going to be off the court at the same time sometimes, and then one of them is going to be on the court as well. So I think they're both good plays. I think that George is more of a cash game type of play for me today. Not saying that he doesn't have the upside, but 9,300 is more than I think I want to pay for at the position in tournaments without going all the way up to one of these elite guys.
Right.
So he's kind of like, he's in no man's land. Like, he's not 10K, but he's not 8K. Like, the gap between him and Kawhi is 900, and then the gap between him and Nikola Mirotic is, 1,700. So it's just kind of one of those things. Like, he's in no man's land. So, and I don't think people are going to chase him even with the high score that he had. So
Probably not. Yeah, probably not.
all right. I don't want to talk about this guy. I got to mention him, Rudy Gay. I think he's in play today again. He's been playing a ton of minutes. I still think he's too cheap. He's more of a cash game type than a GPP type for me, because I don't think that he goes off for 40 in back-to-back games.
No, he does not.
So, Josh Richardson. Now, my original interest in Josh Richardson was without Goran Dragic playing. Now, I don't know what to do with him, because if Dragic is playing, I don't like him quite as much, but it is the Suns, and go. What am I doing with Josh Richardson today now?
Dude, I have no idea. No, I mean, I don't. You're probably just going to fade him and move on. I mean, you just said it's the Suns, and I mean, if it's the Suns, then why would you play one of their best players on the opposite end? I mean, not for me, dog. To quote American Idol.
All right, Randy. That's my pop cultural knowledge for y'all today. C.D. Osman or Rodney Hood?
Man, I'm really liking CD today. And I wish I could tell you why, but I don't know why. I did know why, but it's just one of those things where, the game is probably going to be pretty close. And he's in a really good matchup there. I mean, he's probably going to end up being, matched up with Buddy. And,
Yeah.
I mean, because Hood plays the small forward.
Buddy, Justin Jackson. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, it's
a whole bunch of non-defensive nothings.
Yeah. Exactly.
On the defensive end, anyways.
And that's where he's one of my pay down options.
Yeah. This is the way I'm kind of separating it right now. I think they're both good for cash if you want to. I think Rodney Hood is got the I don't want to see. They've both got about the same floor, but I think that CD has the better ceiling. But if you absolutely need the $200 in savings on FanDuel, then you can play Rodney Hood and cash and CD in tournaments.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
So, all right. We talked about Stanley Johnson. We both kind of like him today. I think a forgotten man today with Embiid out is Wilson Chandler. Nobody is talking about him whatsoever with the Embiid news that came out a couple hours ago.
Oh, he's made my pool.
Yeah, he's firmly in play for me. He's going to play 30 minutes. He is still too cheap, and now he has probably the green light to be a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah.
So, all right, power forwards here. I don't know what your thoughts are on this. Actually, I kind of do. We've talked about it a little bit. I think Blake Griffin is an elite tournament play today.
Well, we're definitely on the same page there.
So I just think that a lot of people are going to flock automatically to Andre Drummond, who's going to be pretty highly owned. There's no bulls about it. But that in tournaments, I can definitely fade Drummond and go to Blake at probably, I would say as of right now, half the ownership. And get just about as much upside and have a very good chance of outscoring him.
Of outscoring who?
Drummond.
Yeah, and so that's where I think we need to, look at why we like it so much. So for FanDuel, Drummond's 8,800. Andre Drummond. I mean, that's crazy to me, right? It's probably crazy to you too. But at the same time, not only is he cheap, but now Embiid's out, and we already know what Embiid has done to Drummond historically, which is quite possibly why he was priced so cheap. And then all of a sudden you've got this stuff here. Just, I mean, everyone's going to run to him, and so I think your way to kind of pivot off that chalk is to go elsewhere at center and go play Blake Griffin. I mean, also when you look at the matchup, I mean, they're going to have Wilson Chandler at the 4, Muscala at the 5, right? Am I missing anyone there? No, right?
Amir Johnson.
I mean, okay, he'll play 18 minutes, but I mean, as far as like a majority of the game, Blake is going to have somebody much smaller than him guarding him, and this is the Blake game,
and not as athletic.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so maybe Wilson Chandler's can compete with the athleticism a little bit.
On the perimeter.
But Mike Muscala, nobody has ever mistaken Mike Muscala as an athletic type of guy.
Yeah.
Sorry, white boy, I love you. We go way, way back. But you're white. I'm more athletic than Mike Muscala.
Oh, fuck.
So, and I'm 20 pounds overweight right now, which is why my butt has been tried to be going to the gym, but freaking NBA has got me out of it for the last 2 weeks. I've sucked since Thanksgiving going to the gym. I have sucked.
It's not easy, man. It's not easy.
I'm about ready to give up until January. All right, we talked a little bit about this guy too, Aaron Gordon Knight. It seems like it's upon us.
Think so, huh?
Yeah, I think so. Like I wait for the perfect moments to play Aaron Gordon, and this just seems way too, like, against Indy, at home.
Yep.
Price is right.
Possibly without Sabonis.
Yeah, and not that Sabonis is a good defender, but he's a body.
He's a big boy.
Yeah, that's a big boy. As Luce says, his butt is wide.
Is that really what he says?
I thought that's what he said the other day. So yeah, I mean, I really do like Aaron Gordon tonight.
Yeah.
Bam Adebayo. We all know the the Hassan Whiteside drama. Whiteside's out. Bam's probably going to get the start. I don't know if they priced him up enough.
No, they didn't.
Like, they tried, and I'll give them all the props for trying. I just don't think they accomplished what they were meaning to.
They did not.
So, available in all formats, yes?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Let's talk about... I was going to say Amir Johnson, but you kind of already said Amir. He's going to play 18 minutes. I think he's in play. I think he's going to be kind of overlooked a little bit. Or am I just getting wishful thinking at min price 20 minutes of Amir?
Nah. I can't. There's no reason to.
As a drop score, if you're him and Shelvin Mack or him and Malik Beasley competing?
I mean, maybe. I don't usually like to do two competing drop scores. I like to have one and then kind of get a stud or two in there and then go even the rest of the way. That's just kind of how I like it. But I don't know. I mean, if you want to take that approach, yeah, those two are fine. I mean, you can kind of. I mean, we talked about so many other drop score plays. If that's fine. I mean, you can try that. I don't hate it. I just see better. Like realistically, what's Amir Johnson's ceiling?
35.
No way.
He's done it before.
I didn't say his history ceiling. I'm talking about this season's ceiling. Like, what is he going to do now? And I get it. These guys haven't been around and blah, blah, blah. I get all that. But realistically, he's not going to play 25 minutes, dude. There's no way.
He doesn't need 25 minutes. If you like I said, am I thinking wishfully, wanting 20 minutes out of a min price Amir Johnson? Give me 20 minutes, and with going up against Andre Drummond or Zaza Pachulia or Blake Griffin on the block, he can.
I don't see the upside.
30.
I don't see him putting up 30. I just don't. I see him getting buried out on the bench and maybe giving Muscala a break or whatever. But I don't see him even breaking 10. But I mean, if you're playing him knowing that everybody else on your roster is going to outscore him, and he's just minimum price, so that's why you put him in there, okay, fine. But if I'm putting him to compete with another drop scorer, he's going to lose every time. Or technically he wins, right? Because he'll be the drop scorer. But
right.
whatever you want to call it. But I don't know if I can. I mean, I don't know if I can do it.
Okay. All right, let's go. Let's move on to centers here. Andre Drummond, we've talked about a lot. Obviously, in play, both sites, every single type of game format. We talked about some options. I hate Andre Drummond chalk night, but even I can't get off of it. I will try to get off of it in a couple of tournament lineups, and it'll be with the straight pivot from Drummond to Blake Griffin, because I will want some of that front court.
Yeah.
But it's hard not to not just plug him in. Like I said earlier, I was like, the worst news that could have happened with this Embiid news is that it came out so early that now we have all day to second guess ourselves.
Yeah. Pretty much.
So I think Nikola Jokic is a good play. I know we're kind of on the same page there. If you want to play Steven Adams in cash because you just can't get up to Andre Drummond, then I'm going to ask you what kind of roster construction you have first. Then I'm going to say, okay, if it looks good, because I think it's Steven Adams is in play there. I would much rather you spend the $1,100 in cash and get up to Drummond, though. And then the rest of it, like, I mean, Vooch, 9,200 against Indy.
Love.
Um,
Love.
Can you play both Vooch and Gordon in the same lineup?
I won't. I mean, the thing about that is, like, the best way to attack the Pacers is down low, particularly when Sabonis is not on the floor. But now without Oladipo, you can kind of target them anywhere you want. I mean, I don't usually target, anybody when Depot's playing, guarding him, but he's not playing. So, yeah, I mean, I don't believe you're going to get 65s out of both, and that's the kind of tournament numbers you need. So I don't know if you can play both of them. So kind of pick one or the other. I mean, if you're going to play Vooch, play, another power forward instead. Go play Blake Griffin. If you're going to play Aaron Gordon, then go play Jokic.
That's a good point. You mean Vucevic?
Jokic. If you're going to play Gordon, go play Jokic.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yes. Sorry. I kind of lost you there for a second. And then I don't, there's some guys in the middle there, but I don't have a lot of interest in anybody until we get down to the value option. Mike Muscala, obviously, he's going to pop off of every single page. If he gets... like I said, me and Moose go way back. But it's hard to pass on him at $4,200. The problem with it is on FanDuel, he's your only option. You can only play one. So that means you're passing on Drummond, Jokic, Vooch, Gasol, Adams,
Randall, Miles Turner, Willie Cauley-Stein. I mean, you're passing on all these guys.
Yeah.
And it's a tough sell. But it's tremendous value. I mean, it really is. It's tremendous value. So because it's such tremendous value, I think in your tournaments you're going to see basically a lot of optimizers kind of throw him in there, force him in there. And if you want to be a little bit different, you can pay up. Some of the guys we just talked about.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I've heard a lot of Jonas Valanciunas love today. I'm not sure I would really get down with that. I know the centers versus Brooklyn thing, but it's a little bit different with Toronto.
Well, yeah,
how they run it.
Centers have to actually play.
Yeah, I still don't have him over 17 minutes right now.
Yeah, I played him the other night where he went up for 38, and I was pretty happy with it. But that was a different game. I mean, I don't see them. Because it's the 30 minutes or whatever of Jared Allen, which Jonas won't see much of that, and then it's the other 28 minutes or whatever it is without Jared Allen that the Nets go small, and so they have Ed Davis and or Hollis Jefferson at the 5, or it depends on the matchup, but. So, I mean, not for me. Not at 5K. If it was minimum price, we talk about him. But
yeah,
5K? Nah.
Yeah. All right, there's a couple other guys that we all like from these positions, but we're going to save these for I'm going to save them for my notes. I'm going to kind of touch on them a little bit, and I know Bear's probably going to talk about them through other channels and people as well. So anything else you want to kind of touch on before we get out for the peeps?
I mean, should we talk about the guy that I told you about?
Oh, yes. Sorry. We forgot to talk about Mr. Nerlens Noel. Go ahead. Sell me on Nerlens, because I've been a very, very... I like him. I love him. I want more of him. Unfortunately, Billy Donovan's kind of just sitting there as long as the game's even close, you're going to play about 15 minutes, buddy. Unless Steven Adams is out or in foul trouble.
Either or. But even in those situations, he just put up 33 versus Detroit. in 20 minutes.
We
He just put up.
beating them by 35.
I get it, but it was still just 20 minutes, right? You're playing Chicago tonight, so that could happen again. Versus the Hawks, 16 minutes, 37.4 in 16 minutes.
Oh yeah, but we know the Hawk. Yeah.
I mean, Brooklyn, 14 minutes, he puts up a 20.8. I mean, to me, in tournaments, I can see pivoting to him.
From
Muscala.
Thank you.
So
I needed you to spell it out for everybody.
Okay.
Because some people are going to be like, who are we pivoting, and why are we pivoting to Nerlens Noel when he only played 14 minutes last game?
Yeah. And, a lot of this to me, too, is I think the Bulls had their one, they fired our coach, Hoiberg, they fired him, let's come out and play, and that kind of happened, and they kind of go back to being the Bulls again. I know marketing helps them a lot, but they need more help. I mean,
yeah, and if you notice, we didn't talk about a lot of Bulls today.
I mean, not much to like.
Or Suns.
Or Suns. Not much to like either.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I kind of like the pivot there. And there's one more center which we will leave for our VIPs that we're in love with here. It's another probably even better pivot, which we'll talk about. So I will tell you why. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like about the slate. Like I said, 10 games. I hope everybody pays close attention to the notes that are going to be coming out later on today. I hope everybody is differentiating between what your cash build should look like, and when we say pivot, what exactly it means. If you have a guy who we know is going to be 80% owned, play somebody in the same range in tournaments. If he outscores him, you're in the 20 percentile right away, just for making one change.
Yep.
So just keep an ear out for that, and our coaches will make sure that you have that information. And as news hits, we'll update what it means for other players in our forums, and we'll go from there.
Sounds like a plan, Stan. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us today. For myself, for Bear, for the DFS Army, we go. Peace out. Have a good weekend.